really was Navalny? Putin's opponent, who died of yet to be ascertained causes in the Arctic colony IK-3 after being transferred to serve a 30-year sentence. The press describes him as a champion of justice in favor of human rights and the people fighting against the evil we all know as Vladimir Putin. But let's dig a little deeper to understand what is really known about Navalny and what his story is. Born in a small town outside Moscow in 1976, Navalny studied law, became a lawyer, and became interested in politics in the early 2000s, when he ran for local office with the liberal and nationalist Yabloko party. Notoriety came only in 2006 with the opening of his blog and the publication of articles denouncing it. Since 2007, Navalny was considered by all the Western press, and not only the one who led the National Socialist movements. He was the one who participated in the Russian March, a demonstration that is held every year by supporters of Nazi ideologies. He had no problem expressing his homophobic or anti-Islamic views. Navalny proposed deportation as a solution to the immigration problem. Since 2012, however, things have changed for the Western press, and this happens between 2011 and 2012, where from that moment the press begins to describe him as a person against National Socialist ideologies, the Muslims. They have become sympathetic, and he magically becomes a supporter of LGBT rights. Migrants are no longer insects to be eliminated, as he himself had defined them in some of his articles. His enemies became the corruption of public officials. He published his investigations using internet channels, gaining more and more consensus, especially in the West, where the media began to speak positively of him. From that moment on, he began his political climb, contributing to the myth of the man capable of opposing Putin. His political experience was interrupted in 2020 when he went into a coma due to a suspected poisoning, was treated in Germany, and in 2021 he was arrested on his return to Moscow, where he was sentenced to 9 years in prison for fraud, and where in 2023 another 19 years were added for political extremism. He is taken to what is called Russia's worst prison, DK3, in Western Siberia, where he will die of a blood clot on February 16, 2024, according to Russian national TV. An interesting question that might arise when analyzing Navalny's ideological path is what happened in 2012 to lead him to change his mentality so radically, to transform a supporter of Nazi movements, anti-LGBT, and many other things related to a National Socialist mentality, in a totally different person, a person enlightened by the Lord. Here comes the most important part to understand, which leads to the formulation of theories that do not show Navalny being so different from what he was before his conversion by divine grace. On May 4, 2011, Russia and Germany inaugurated Nord Stream, a pipeline connecting Russia to Germany for the supply of gas and oil. Until now, Navalny was always considered a Nazi homophobe by the international press, although until then no one gave him much consideration. In March 2012, the second pipeline was completed. At the same time, Putin is re-elected for his third term at the helm of Russia, and as Putin sets foot in the presidency, it seems that Navalny seems to be receiving beatification. It is here that his image as a homophobic Nazi is transformed. The Western press begins to describe him as a saint and to give him an importance that they had never given him before. Meanwhile, Russia and Germany consolidated their relations with the project to build Nord Stream 2, and in 2015 the agreement for the construction was signed. In 2018, Germany gave the go-ahead for construction. Not all Western countries agreed to this project, and first of all the United States. It called the project a bad deal for Europe and a danger to international security. Navalny, in opposing Putin in the political escalation, had stressed that Nord Stream 2 should not be done exactly in line with the will of the United States and Western countries. Germany was continually advised to abandon the project that would have strengthened Russia even more. Perhaps the Russian government and Putin are responsible for Navalny's death. As Western newspapers and those opposed to the Russian government suggest, no one can say for sure. But surely Navalny was not the holy man that since 2012 they have tried to make us believe. Behind political and economic issues of an international nature, we often avoid delving into the topics, perhaps for reasons of synthesis, or perhaps out of interest. The war in Ukraine certainly has not made Putin the most sympathetic person on the planet for Westerners, and therefore it also becomes automatic that someone like Navalny, an opponent of Putin, can also become a holy victim to be beatified.